Advice and Conquer. We've spent this season walking through all of the how-tos of regulatory life, including 510Ks, pre-subs, QMSs, you name it. So today's going to be a little different because we're not talking about the regulations. We are not talking about all the paperwork with the QMS or the audits. Today, we're going to be talking about you and how do you be the regulatory person that people actually like to work with.
And this is so important. I mean, most people in general want to be liked. That's, I mean, a given. You don't want to go and have fights with your coworkers or anything. But I think with regulatory and quality, there's already some old stigma sometimes, especially, in well-established old manufacturing of feeling a little bit like you're the policeman, the cop, or
Mhm.
that you just kind of tie everyone up in the red tape. And getting people to change their mind and changing company culture is so powerful, and it starts with how you show up at work.
Mhm. So one of the things when I started doing this, regulatory wasn't one of those things you could learn in school and get a degree in. Um,
Yeah.
but even at that, you really don't learn these communication skills in the environment in which you have to exercise that communication.
Yeah, and I mean, when it really comes down to it, I think quality and regulatory is all about being able to communicate effectively and bridge communications across departments. Because people need to understand what you're saying, but what you're doing is you're translating regulatory jargon into something actionable for people. And
Mhm.
different people will interpret that in different ways, and they need it said differently. Someone who's in marketing is going to want to hear or needs to hear different parts of the quality management system and understand different parts of the quality management system than
Mhm.
someone who's like a very technical engineer doing design controls. And so being able to say, "Hey, I need you to complete this form and this record, and like, should we consider this in a way that is actionable?"
Mhm. And you get them engaged. Like when you do things like, should we consider this? Then that engages them in an actual dialogue rather than just saying no or not explaining why or just do it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, being in quality and regulatory to some extent, but you see this a lot on the quality side. There can be a lot of people who are very afraid of getting in trouble on the quality side, and so they react by putting up roadblocks, right? They say,
Mhm.
"No, no, no, no." And what you really need to be doing is say, "Okay, that doesn't quite work, but let's consider, like, would this meet
Mhm.
your need? Like,
Mhm.
what is the balance of, like, 100% compliance with reality, right?"
Mhm.
So and that's not saying
And
you have
intent.
compliance, it's about saying that, okay, you have a compliance requirement. How do you hear other groups talk to you about their needs not being met, and give them a solution that makes you both compliant and meets their needs when they are
Yeah.
frustrated in the system because they don't understand it?
Yeah. I have the joke on the website, but it's really not a joke that I'm a master grief counselor because you have to realize that, okay, they're mad at the regulations. They're
Mm.
not mad at you. And like then you have to like say, hey, I'm on your side in this. And so you have to be able to recognize if somebody's in, anger, denial, bargaining, there's one more and before you get to acceptance. And so if you recognize where they're at and meet them there emotionally and kind of help move them through that cycle of emotions, because um, regulatory has this way, not just regulatory, the position in a company just has this way to draw out all of these complicated emotions in people. So you
That's a great point. It does make people feel really emotional. I
Mhm.
think the amount of emotion is disproportionate, and because I think a lot of times when you're at the point where you're doing a regulatory submission, you've probably already spent years, at least months on a project, and it's supposed to be like the last hurdle. And then when things aren't going well or you've been working on something, if you were smart and you were doing it right, you would have had regulatory involved well before this. But
Mhm,
Michelle and I have both seen where people don't even consult regulatory until they go, "Hey, we have a product, let's get it to market."
mhm.
And then
Um,
they have to go through that process of like, "Well, we worked so hard and now you're telling me that it's not good enough." And that's what
mhm.
people can hear, and that's not the intent.
Well, and people also don't wanna feel they want to feel like they have options, and they're not just told not only to do something, but to do it in this way. So, approaching somebody and saying, "Well, here are your options. You could do A, and here's what the, risks and consequences are. You could do B, and this is the risks and consequences, or you can do C, and that's always you can do nothing and just stand there and see what happens with
Yeah.
it all." But and even though C isn't really a option, making them feel like that they have some level of choice, like, kinda helps some people move out of that place where they're kinda stuck.
Yeah. To kind of go along with this, Michelle, what are your tips and tricks for saying no without alienating your team? Because being in regulatory or quality, I mean, it comes like any other position, but there are a lot of times where you just do have to put your foot down. Like sometimes it's a matter of patient safety, and it's not that anyone, not necessarily that people have malicious intent. It's just that they don't, again, they don't have the background knowledge that you do to understand why you're saying no. So you have to say no. How do you say no without alienating people?
Well, at this point, you've worked on building your cross-functional relationships with the team, and hopefully you have showed up, not like an asshole in this whole process. You've done some of these things that we've
Tip one.
recommended, and you build trust, where people feel like, Man, Michelle really does have our backs." And so when they feel like that, when you do have to draw a line and set a boundary and say, "No, this is just the way it's got to be," they respect where you're coming from a little bit more.
Yeah, I think and this perspective gets lost a lot of times because, you know, everyone has felt the scurry of when an audit is coming and your quality team is all of a sudden all riled up and they're getting all up in your business and they're asking for all these records and they're asking you to correct records. And, you don't have time for that and you're trying to get product out the door and the quality team's all up in a tizzy. I always try to remind people that when you're a good quality person and an auditor is coming, it almost feels like you're wearing a bulletproof vest, but you might still be getting shot for your team. And that does hurt. It does leave a few
Kevlar still
bruises.
it still hurts the Kevlar.
Like you flinch just a little bit. It's not going to kill you, but you do. Like, a good quality person is supposed to take it for the team in some ways. You are part of manufacturing, you are part of marketing, you are part of design and development because you are a representative of all those functions.
Mhm,
And when an auditor comes, what you are communicating is my team, engineering, marketing, management, they know what they're doing. And here is the evidence of all of their hard work. And so you need to have that kind of attitude instead of saying, the auditor is coming and I'm going to have to, I'm going to get beat up because you
yeah.
didn't get that right.
Yeah, I told one of my last jobs in industry, I worked for a contract manufacturer and we had audit season, is what I called it. It was like when the northern states are like frozen over, everybody wants to come to Tucson to do their supplier audits. So we would sometimes have an audit every week of a month. Sometimes we'd have two audits in a week. So uh I told my team, and this is back to, building the trust with a cross-functional team. I told the other directors, like, I ask questions because I don't want your people to get in the room, in the conference room,
Yeah.
and that be the first time they heard that or were exposed to that type of question. So I'm asking questions and pushing sometimes because I know how the auditor's going to show up. And I don't want anybody to be asked a question that I hadn't already asked them that they to prepare them to answer this kind of array of different topics.
And that's so I think that's so important. You communicated that you're here to educate the team. And when you are the expert on quality and you know that people are going to be confused about the process, not understand the requirements, it's important that you keep, like when I was at my last job, I kept an open door policy. I said, no matter how late, if you have a question, if you have a concern, if you found something, tell me about it, because it is about building that trust, and I
Mhm,
never got angry. It's a little bit like I don't know if you were a teenager. My parents did this for me. They were like, "Okay, we're gonna have a safe word. If you're ever at a party and you've been drinking and you want us to just come pick you up and you don't want us to get mad at us, tell us corn chips. We'll know that you want corn chips. That means to come get you and no questions asked." And I always like, when you start a new quality role, especially when you're brand new, you can uncover a lot of information about the health of an organization, right? Because the quality system is about the health of your organization.
mhm.
And you'd be surprised at how many people will just be like, I knew this was an issue for like years, but the last quality person was mean. They would call me dumb, they would call me stupid, like they would downplay it. So I didn't know how to approach people. So being approachable, taking
Mhm.
things in stride, even though it kinda, like, hurts you a little bit because it's like you're gonna have to write out the nonconformity and the CAPA and do a lot of work. It's just important to remember that, like, people are not malicious in intent for the most part. I mean, there are some people out there that we
Mhm.
know are on the crazy train, but
Mhm. Um,
What about talking to different people in different ways? You already mentioned about matching people's energy, but I would say if you want to be a really good game-changing regulatory quality expert, you have to be able to speak the language of who you're talking with. So I have a background.
that's so funny because I almost filled that in with the like love languages.
Yeah, the love languages.
There is an element of that though, for
There
sure.
is an element of that. If I'm talking to the C-suite, I'm not gonna get in the nitty and gritty. I'm gonna say,
Yep.
"Hey, here's your business strategy using your quality, and I think you could save this amount of money." And you know what? They love that. Like,
Mhm.
if you can apply your knowledge, we talked about how you need to educate others, but if you can apply your knowledge to what someone else is working on, it just makes you feel.
Easier buy-in.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
easier buy-in. It makes people trust you because you understand what you're asking people. Like when I started as an engineer, I've done design and development documents. I've written a design and development plan and trace matrix and all of that. So when I worked as a quality engineer and on new product development, I could ask questions when I would get protocols or reports that I had issues with. And I'd say, why can't we redo this? Like, is it expensive? Do we not have samples? Like, what is the reason? And then we could have a dialogue because I knew what I was asking from them. Or if I asked, marketing, and I would say, hey, like, we have a field correction. You need to send out a notification to all the people who bought this, and, that makes them, like, shrivel up and die, like, they basically become a raisin in the sun. They're like, "I'll never be able to sell this product again. We have to send out a notice to all of our customers." Like, working with them to craft the language and be like, I know that this hurts. It hurts me, it hurts you, we have to do it, it's a requirement, it's the right thing to do. Let's work on the language. What can't we say?
Mhm.
It goes a long way. Just sitting with people, like you said earlier, Michelle, sitting with people's feelings, sitting with where they are and what position they're at in the company and listening
Listening.
is all really important soft skills that a lot of people don't get. And that can apply to any role that you take.
Mhm. So now it's time for our interactive segment. We're going to talk about regulatory red flags.
Yeah. So we want to hear from you. What's the fastest way a regulatory person has like turned you off? Like when have you been like, "Oh, I'm not working with that. That is crazy town. That is a control freak." What did it for you? You can send us your green flags too. What makes you respect a colleague that's in quality or regulatory? Like who do you like working with the most? What did we miss in our conversation?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, let us know your thoughts in the section below.
Feel free to post your love language too.
Yeah, what's your love language? I mean, words of affirmation?
Hmm. Yep.
Are
Because
you a words of affirmation, a holding hands kind type? What does it for
yeah,
you?
yeah. So holding hands and singing Kumbaya. So
So there you have it. How to be a regulatory person everybody actually likes. Communicate clearly. Use those tips and tricks that we talked about. Don't be a red tape control freak that tells everyone no.
you're
And
building
can
bridges,
only,
not barriers.
yeah, you're building bridges, not lighting them on fire.
Mhm.
Stay collaborative, stay bold, stay compliant, and we'll see you in the next one.